Hey guys, this is Gamer Talk episode 2. Will here. For this one, I wanted to talk about your next gen gaming choice. Um, it's kind of confusing. Like, all the options seem pretty good, right? They're all like pretty promising for as far as Xbox versus PlayStation 5 versus gaming PC. And I'm just gonna give my like 2 cents of kind of advice of what I think people should go on based on each individual situation on what they already own. Because like once you lay it out, like if depending on what you already own, it's actually a little simpler. There's only like a few combinations of what you own that makes things a little confusing. I mean, like so like first right off the bat, if you're super rich, obviously you just buy everything, right? You want to have every single game possible, every system, so you could play any game whenever you want, day one, all the exclusives. And if you have like the gaming PC to run things at the max specs, if that's possible, you have your consoles as backup if there's some weird glitch where the game doesn't run on your graphics card or something like that. You just buy the game. You don't care. You have money. It's obvious. It's really easy if you have a lot of money. You just buy whatever you want when you get all of them. If you're a real gamer, you're not hating on one system or the other. And then the other like real easy option, obviously, is just if you're really poor. I feel like it's a no-brainer. Like the Xbox Series S, I think, is the way you go because you can pay for that for as little. That's only $25 a month, no money down. And yeah, with that option in the long run, because you're signing up for games, but like you pay for this system in 2 years straight up, and then you're also paying for Games Pass every year. So over the 2 years, if you would pay more money in the long run if you normally wouldn't subscribe for Game Pass and like cancel your subscription here and there. But the reason why I feel like that cell phone kind of model, the payment plan model is actually kind of more reasonable than just straight up paying the 300, even though like compared to a gaming PC or these other or the full price consoles or the premium ones, it's $200 cheaper. So like that's not too much of an ask, but like a lot of people, especially in these times with the pandemic, like are hurting for money. And Christmas is coming up here real soon, like Black Friday, like the holiday shopping season, and maybe even just like a $300 purchase on one item is not reasonable. But you can spring the, okay, well, I can just throw down $30 or 25 or 35 even for the Xbox Series X, even do that per month, and then you get Games Pass in there included, so you have close to 200 games. You don't have to buy any games. If you already had a previous Xbox, you already have extra controllers, but I mean, it comes with one too. And then also you get access to xCloud, so then you can play all your games on your phone too. And so like that's just by far, I think, the best deal. And then so I think like another easy option too is if you didn't own a PS4 and but you do have an Xbox One, or you don't have like, either you do or don't have a good PC. Like you either have a really good one or you just don't have one at all. Like either way, I think like then the PS5 disc version specifically would be the way to go, because if you have an Xbox One or a PC, then you have access to Games Pass, so you can play all the Microsoft first party games on there. And then, or I mean, yeah, so like it's going to be like a while before we get any like specific next gen games too. So even just a regular Xbox One is good enough. Um, but like, yeah, there's like that means you have been missing out. Like if you didn't have a PS4, you've been missing out on all these awesome PS4 games like God of War and Horizon and Persona, you know, Uncharted, The Last of Us, all these games. Like, and what's cool is like the PlayStation Plus collection and the PlayStation Now is not nearly as good as like anything the Xbox has to offer, but they do have like if you didn't own a PS4, there's like 8 of those games that are like must play, must own PlayStation games are on PlayStation Plus collection. So you are getting like 7, 8, like there's only 12 games on there, but like 7 or 8 of them are bangers, and they're games that you'd pay for full price at day one if you had options or if you had access to that when you had the system. So like that's a really good value too. And then and so like the next setup would be you didn't own an Xbox One and you already have a PlayStation 4 but you don't have a good PC. So then really your options is like, so in this scenario you have already bought all those really good PlayStation games. So when you buying the PS5, like you're for like the next year there's only like a few games that you're getting that are PlayStation exclusive, and then none of them are games that you can only play on PlayStation 5 and not PlayStation 4. So there's really no point in buying. If I feel like if you already own a PlayStation 4, there's not any point in buying a PlayStation 5 for the next year. You might as well wait for the price to go down, and in the meantime, you pick up like one of the Xbox Series X, probably, like, because the PC, you could go for a PC too. So if you have a lot of money, I mean, and you just want the max power, like, I mean, that's going to take a lot of money to buy a brand new gaming PC that's a better performer than the Series X. So like the Series X is just a way better dollar value. So I would personally go for the Series X, and then you got xCloud. I mean, because on top of that too, a lot of the Games Pass games, so like what people don't know is that some of them are console only and some of them are PC only, but it weighs more towards console only. Like, and like some of the games that come to both come to the console Game Pass first. Like, the new Doom Eternal just came out on October 1st, right? And I was ready to play that on my gaming PC because I just have the regular base Xbox One, and so I was like, okay, I'm definitely gonna install this on my PC because it's way better. And then I'm like, wait, where is it? And it wasn't there. And then I see like, okay, it is coming out for PC later this year, but it's only out for the console Xbox Game Pass, which is also why like Ultimate's just better. There's no confusion. Like if you see a game's coming out for Game Pass, then you just like, if you have Ultimate, you know you have access to the game if you have an Xbox One and a PC. Or even just like some of them are on the cloud on your phone too, or other devices and PC. So like, but I mean, that also requires Ultimate to have the cloud gaming. But yeah, so I feel like in that scenario, it's a pretty easy choice with the Xbox One. With like all these in general, I feel like, yeah, unless you have a lot of money, the PC option is just not a good route. Just because it's so much more money to get an equivalent system to a PS5 or an Xbox Series X. It's way more money than those cost, and that's not even because, like, first of all, what people don't realize is that both of the companies, Sony and Microsoft, are going to be, well, they always have lost money on every single console sold, and these ones it's estimated they're going to be losing about $100 for every console they sell. I mean, that sounds crazy, but like, if you don't know, like, that's not how they make they get you in there through that really good deal, and then they make money off of the software sales and the service sales, like Xbox Live, Game Pass, and the games, or like PlayStation Now, PlayStation Plus, and all their exclusive games. So like because of that, like, even if you could somehow get access to the PC parts at market, like true like market price, then you still like would be paying, it would still be $100 more than those systems. Like, if you somehow got the manufacturer deals that those companies are getting with the other, like AMD and all the parts that are the Seagate and everything, like you still could not build a gaming PC for the same price as those. Like it's literally not possible. So like that's why I don't consider, unless you have a lot of extra money, I don't consider like PC the best route in any of these situations. And that I have a good gaming PC. Like that's coming from someone who has one. Like my PC is really strong. Other than my graphics card's just like okay. I have a 1080 Ti. It's not good enough to like it. Technically, you could do ray tracing, but like you'd be running at like 12 frames per second if you were playing in like 4K. But I can run games with that. Like I have a really good setup other than that, so I can run games in 4K no problem, or like 120 frames per second in like 1080p. I mean 1440p. But like yeah, the new systems are just such a good deal. And so the tricky setup, I think, where it starts to get tricky, because those all scenarios are those are the most common ones. Where it starts to get tricky is where if you have an Xbox One, or no, actually, no, wait, there's one more easy one, which would be is if you have an Xbox One and no PlayStation 4 and a bad PC. Oh, what did I say? Yeah, like I think that one's like yeah, that one's an easy one too, because that's like you just get the PS5. But so where it starts to get tricky is if you didn't own an Xbox One slash yeah, and you have a PlayStation 4 and you have a good PC. Like in this case, so you have a PlayStation 4, so you have all those good games. Like I said, for the next year, you can get Spider-Man Miles Morales on PS4, and it doesn't, honestly, like from what I'm seeing, it's not looking that much better on PS5. Like you can wait on that. And then like the other exclusive games like aren't aren't that impressive until at least mid next year, and even then they're coming on PS4 too. So you can wait on that if you're a huge PlayStation person anyway. And then but you have a good PC too, right? So like if so you can just subscribe to Game Pass. I would say on this scenario, I would just lean towards just don't get anything and just hold on what you have. Like you might not be getting some of the good Game Pass games for like till later or at all by not having the console, but if you at least you could subscribe to Games Pass Ultimate, and then you could get access to some of them through the cloud service. So I mean, like maybe that's your option is just don't buy anything new because you've got a good PC, and you can just maybe just add Games Pass Ultimate just for the cloud part, and so like you have like another mobile option if you already have like a Nintendo Switch too. And yeah, I'll get to Nintendo second, because people are probably like, "What? Wait, what about Nintendo? Where does that factor in?" I'll explain that in a second. And so the last scenario would be that, besides all the Nintendo involving scenarios, would be you have a PlayStation 4 and an Xbox One, but your PC sucks, or you don't really have, it's not a gaming PC. And this one, I think this one's a little tricky too, because I think it also depends on what kind of Xbox One you have and what PlayStation 4. Like if you have the PS4 Pro or the Xbox One X, I think it's kind of the same as what I was just talking about before. You could just kind of sit on one for a while, because you're not really gaining anything right now off of getting the new ones. Like you're just gaining like the faster load times, and like I don't know, maybe I think I'd lean a little bit towards the Series X, just because like I said, you're not gaining much overall, but the things you are gaining, if you look at the two, like both systems would get you faster load times. So if you want something for that, then you get that. But the advantage of the Xbox Series X has over is this is if you already own both of them, right? So that means you can just unplug your external hard drive from your Xbox One and then plug it into your new one, and then literally all your games are already installed, and they're all backwards compatible, and you can just play them straight off there. And if there's one that you want the faster load time on, you just transfer that one game over to the internal hard drive, and like that, there's that, and then there's like the quick resume where you can cycle back and forth between like the multiple games. And with games like I think like the quick resume would normally be a little overrated of a feature, but with Games Pass, like I'm playing 4 different games right now, and I didn't buy any of them, but like I'm only playing that many of them because I'm jumping back and forth between them because they're free. So, but if I could have like all of them loaded up already, and so I could just literally within like 2 seconds jump back and forth between them, and that's a pretty cool feature too. So like yeah, like if you're like, man, I could run the games in 4K, 60 frames per second, faster load times on top of that, like that might be worth it. I personally don't think it's worth paying $500 for that, but it's tempting though, I have to admit. Like, yeah, so like those are the scenarios. And like, so what about Nintendo Switch? Why didn't I factor all those into all the combinations? It's just because two things. One, there's a Nintendo Switch Pro is like pretty much confirmed to be coming out early next year. So it's like it's really hard to say like how you should even factor Nintendo into it when we don't know anything about this new model. Like, is it like going to be like a true generational upgrade? Is it going to be like a Switch 1.5, or is it just going to basically just be just literally straight up the Nintendo Switch, but with like a little bit better screen or something like, so we don't know. So there's that reason. And then there's also the fact that right now, like the Switch is basically more of like a companion console. It doesn't compete with PlayStation or Xbox or gaming PC. It's more of like there's these games here that aren't on anything else, and it's more of a mobile system. So I mean, if anything, like now like Games Pass will kind of compete with that a little bit, but like, or I mean, it'll hurt like the whole like, well, you already have your phone with you in your pocket at all times, so now like taking the Switch seems a lot less convenient. But as long as until they get more games with the touch controls on Games Pass, like bringing the controller with you is like makes it just as inconvenient as bringing like a whole big bulky Switch with the control. Like I mean, as compacted it is for like a portable console, it's not like something you can just throw in your pocket or you always have with you. So like until then, like the Nintendo Switch is just more of like a handheld and it's its own thing. So I don't know, like yeah, I don't think the Nintendo factors in really at all. Like if you have like you're gonna get one of those consoles or not already if you're actually a gamer, and then like no one's gonna have just a Switch. I mean, if you are, I don't know what to tell you. And like you do you just if you're okay with just having a Nintendo Switch and nothing else, like go you do you, man. So yeah, that's just kind of some guidelines I came up with. Like, feel free to tell me if you disagree with some of those combinations. If you think maybe like a PC is like more of an option. Like if you yeah, and tell me what next gen things are you guys going for? Are you gonna, if you're like already a PlayStation owner, already an Xbox owner, do you think you're gonna switch, or do you think you're gonna get both this time? Um, I'd like to get both, but I don't know. I'd think that's a lot of money, so we'll see. I don't know. Like there is an option of maybe like you could buy a PS5 up front now and then finance the Xbox, and like if you're already like I'm already subscribing to Game Pass anyway, so it would just be like an extra $10 a month on. Well, actually, wait. If I get the Series X, then it's an extra 20 a month. But yeah, that's not like if it's just an extra 20 a month, like that's like not that bad. But we'll see, because I kind of yeah I feel like I'm gonna like I like having the option of canceling Games Pass when there's months that know that I'm not going to be using it much, which is like coming up in November when Cyberpunk 2077 comes out. I know I'm going to be playing that game on my PC and nothing else for like at least a month. Like I plan on putting a lot of time into it and then replaying it, and then I'll resubscribe to Games Pass after that. But yeah, let me guys know, like, and hit me with a subscribe if you could. I'm trying to get like at least to where I get monetized. Thanks, guys.